From chilling footage of deer with bloodied faces, to disturbing yet extraordinary footage of bears attacking and eating the cubs of wolves, today's collection of Trailcam videos is set to intrigue you as much as it will entertain you. We start off today's video with a Trailcam attack. A man has set up his Trailcam hoping to capture a mysterious monster that was known to roam the land. Unknown to the owner of the Trailcam, however, the creature was already aware of his plans and had put together its own counterattack. It's almost as though the creature could hear the man's thoughts and had been waiting for him. The man went back a few days later to find his Trailcam destroyed. He realized the storage of the cam was still intact though. He plugged it in when he got home and he discovered he finally had the proof of the creature's existence. Although it was just the neck and mouth of the creature, it was enough since it matched the description of the monster known to terrorize residents of the night. Can you guess what monster it was? Forgive me, but that's no monster, and everything you heard up to this point was an attempt to scare you. What you see in the video is no monster, but a fisher cat which is closely related to the weasel. It's not so big and would typically eat things like birds, rats, fish, and other small animals. It's a shy animal that will typically avoid humans, which makes this footage all the more priceless. It didn't destroy the Trailcam, it was just curious. Now we move on to something that's actually dangerous and features an actual attack. Did you know bears and wolves are usually found in similar territories? Did you know that they're competitors that don't usually see eye to eye? Well, if you didn't, this Trailcam footage will set the record straight. In this Trailcam footage, we see a bear digging, but it's not creating a shelter or preparing to hibernate. Instead, it's found food that's usually not on its menu. Today, it's come across the unguarded den of wolves, which seems to have some cubs in it. Without wasting much time, it begins to dig until it gets to the cub. In situations like this, it's one of the two things. The bear kills the cubs to reduce competition or eats them because it's hungry. Judging by its enthusiasm towards the digging, I'm pretty sure it's both. The wild presented it with the opportunity to fill its belly and reduce territorial competition as well. This was an opportunity he was not gonna miss. Although we don't see it eat the cubs for obvious reasons, of course, the reaction of the wolves when they returned at night shows that the bear definitely ended the lives of the cubs. Well, it might seem harsh, but it's just another day in the wild. Still, in the dangerous realities of the wild, we have these two strong bull elks engaged in a fierce battle. Their primal instincts have taken over, and this will go on until one of them concedes or ends up too injured to continue. If you're wondering whether they die from these fights, the truth is that although it's a possible outcome, it's one that rarely occurs. Their fights usually end before it gets that serious, but in extreme situations they can end up with some serious injuries, broken antlers, and even internal bleeding. Given that there are no hospitals and clinics in the wild, these conditions usually result in death. Hopefully, these two won't get to that point. If you saw Bigfoot, would you give it a chase? Well, whatever your answer might be, this man who had gone on a vacation with his family in Blue Ridge, Georgia, thought it was a good idea to go after it. While hiking in the woods with his family, they heard a loud and unfamiliar growl, and he decided to investigate. If it were me, I would have taken it as a warning to leave, but not this man. Once he heard the strange growl, he got his camera out and went after it. It's unclear if he intended to scare the creature or capture photos and videos. Funny enough, the creature actually wanted nothing to do with the man or his family and simply wanted to be left alone. He tried to get away, but before he could, the man in pursuit managed to get a few shots, which is what you're seeing now. He firmly believes he encountered Bigfoot and not any other wild animal. However, I can't help but wonder, what if this Bigfoot decided to stand its ground and attack? What if it got aggressive? Was his bravery worth the potential risk, or would he have become a news headline? Like I always say, avoid wild animals when you meet them. And if you're unsure what you're dealing with and feel it might be a paranormal creature, get out of there as fast as you can. No viral video is worth your life. Take a good look at this image. Does it look normal to you? Nope, it's definitely not normal. I've seen deer run from people and predators before, but I've never seen them do it like this. In this image captured by the trail camera, we see the deer moving in opposite directions. But why? There is only one answer. They've been startled and scared. But by what? The owner of the trail cam couldn't figure it out at first. That is, until he reviewed earlier trail cam footage from the same location. In one bit of the footage, he saw a beast with dark fur staring in the direction of the trail cam. Actually, it wasn't staring at the trail cam at all. It was staring at the deer in the image. It's almost as though it was stalking them. I wouldn't be surprised if the deer running in opposite directions were actually spooked by the same Bigfoot, since it's in the same area. But why is this Bigfoot stalking deer? Do Bigfoot have a taste for deer meat? Tell us in the comments section. Still on the mysterious and elusive Bigfoot, we have this unusual footage from Florida where a man encountered Bigfoot. If you've watched any of our previous videos, you know the Bigfoot typically prefers to avoid humans and remain hidden. Whenever they're discovered, they quickly try to get away from the location, but that's not what we see with this Bigfoot. Why is it roaming during the day in a busy area with many hunters? There are some who believe it was doing so to attract attention to itself, so that once it was spotted and attacked, it could counterattack. They believe it did this because it had developed a taste for human flesh, and did this to attract attention to itself so it could prey on unsuspecting hunters. This is exactly the reason I tell folks to run as soon as they see one of these creatures. But is this story true though? We may never know. But boy, are we glad that Hunter survived to share this interesting footage with us. If you've ever doubted the saying, "there's safety in numbers," then perhaps this trail cam footage should change your mind. These wood ducks were enjoying themselves when all of a sudden a red tail hawk appeared out of nowhere. It's not clear what its motives were, but perhaps it planned to attack and consume one of the ducks present. Fortunately for the ducks, they realized it in time and raised an alarm in unison, spooking the bird of prey. Realizing it had been discovered, it aborted its attack. Even after it was gone, the wood ducks continued making noise, so it didn't return. Imagine if it was just one duck living a solo life. Without the protection of the group, the lone duck would have likely become a meal for the hawk. Are foxes opportunistic hunters? Definitely. They would eat anything that presents itself to them, be it a bird, a rodent, rabbit, or even an insect. This fox came across a sleeping bird and thought it had hit the jackpot. It assessed the situation and jumped in, hoping to secure for himself a large lunch. Fortunately for the bird, however, it woke up in the nick of time and evaded the attack. All it had to do was get into the water to evade the fox, and it did so swiftly. But I do have a question. Do you think the fox could have taken the bird, given its size? Also, what type of bird is it? I would be reading the comments section for your answers. Taking a step back from all this violence, have you ever wondered if animals develop strange diseases like ulcers and tumors in the wild? If you have, then you'll appreciate this trail cam footage. Just like all who set up trail cams, the owner of this footage set up his hoping to capture something interesting from wildlife in his area. Every footage he reviewed was fascinating, yet nothing out of the ordinary. That was until he came across this footage and wondered what was going on with this deer. If you've ever seen what deer look like, you know that something is definitely not normal. Believe it or not, experts believe that the thing you see hanging from the deer might be its antler, which didn't fully develop. What you see in the second footage is another deer with a tumor. These conditions occur in the wild more often than we would want to admit. In severe cases, they cause the death of the animal, either directly or indirectly by affecting its ability to defend itself, eat, and even get away from predators. Given the severity of their conditions, do you think these deer will survive in the wild? Talking about surviving the wild, tumors are not the only thing deer have to worry about. They have other wild predators and even humans to worry about. These two groups kill more deer than any disease or tumor could ever do, and this trail cam footage proves it. The deer in this footage, for instance, has been shot with an arrow and yet somehow managed to survive the attack. A possible explanation is that although the arrow went through its neck, it did so missing vital blood vessels and organs. This is probably the reason it remained alive and mobile despite having an arrow sticking out of both sides of its neck. However, leaving the arrow in the deer's neck could lead to infections, chronic pain, and other health complications. Thankfully, the local authorities developed an interest in the case of the deer and tried to capture it several times after it became a local sensation. Try as they might, the deer remained elusive even with the arrow in its neck. Once they captured it, they determined it would be best to put it down for the sake of its overall quality of life. It's not the only situation to ever be recorded, though. Take a look at this trail cam footage. We see a deer with an arrow in its side, just above its hind legs jumping, although it was injured. Given the severity of the deer's injury and the challenges it could potentially face in the wild due to such, do you think putting it down was the most humane option? Have you ever seen a skunk fight another animal? If you haven't, then you are in luck, because that's exactly what this footage is about. A man had set up a trail cam just in front of his feeder, hoping to capture something of the wildlife that fed from it. We see two animals in the footage, a skunk and an opossum, who both happen to arrive at the feeder at the same time. Who gets to eat first? Well, it seems like the animals have a hard time deciding that. The possum had arrived first and started eating when the skunk also arrived. But you have to understand that the skunk is a regular there, and hence has some level of seniority. The possum didn't, however, care and kept on eating as much as he could. Getting frustrated, the skunk tried chasing it off and got bitten on the butt twice. Now, I know what you're thinking. A skunk gotten bitten twice on the butt and didn't spray any of its foul-smelling juices? Yes, that's exactly what you heard. But why? Contrary to what many people think, skunks don't just spray anyhow. Many assume they do, which is why they run immediately after they see a skunk coming. The skunk in this video, however, didn't want to spray and kept trying to chase the possum away through other means because it knew that the moment it sprayed, it would ruin the food for itself as well and didn't want that. In fact, skunks don't generally spray around any food source. Perhaps the possum knew this fact, which is why it called the skunk's bluff and bit it several times. Interesting, huh? Next, we have this very disturbing trail cam capture of a deer. We've seen a lot of deer footage today, but none compares to this bloody trail cam capture of the deer's face. What could have happened to this deer to leave it with such a bloody face? I mean, it looks as though it suffered a serious wound. Had it been involved in a serious fight with another deer or gotten stabbed with its antlers? While some think this might be the case, some experts think it might not be blood at all, but the velvet of the deer falling off to reveal the heart and antlers of the deer. Which of these possible scenarios do you actually think it is? I've never seen an alien before, but if you were to ask me what an alien looked like, I would certainly imagine it to be something like this. This footage was not, however, taken in space or on the moon. Instead, it was captured by the Trailcam in the Royal National Park of Sydney. Yes, it was taken on Earth. Many in the paranormal community who saw this footage believed that if the creature was not an alien, it had to be an otherworldly creature that had somehow become visible in our dimension. A closer look at the image reveals the alien-looking creature was actually riding on another one, which looked like a boar. Many doubted the existence of the creature, saying it was a hoax, until a second trail cam video popped up, this time with clearer footage of a creature that looks like what was first disputed. This made many reconsider their original idea of it being a hoax. You have been presented with both bits of footage. What do you think, hoax or real? What would you do if instead of capturing wild and interesting animals, your trail cam captured a scary-looking man wielding what looks like a cutting tool? Not only is his appearance naturally intimidating, but he also had a mask on that makes him look like a horror film villain. It looked as though he was waiting for someone, probably his next victim. The funny thing is, people have been reported going missing in the same woods. Those who escaped this captor stated that he was a mutant out for blood. Is he the man we see in the trail cam footage, the very one they speak of, or is there another one? Truth is, we may never know, but one thing's for sure, someone like me is not going into those woods alone. But what do you think? Do you see those glowing eyes in the darkness? Do you believe they're real and actual glowing eyes, or the red and green eye effect associated with pictures taken in low-light conditions? Although my logical mind wants to believe that it's simply the eyes of a deer reflecting light in low-light conditions, the next footage of another deer in a similar situation debunks that theory. If you'll take a critical look at each bit of footage, you will realize that there are other glowing eyes behind them. The final bit of footage shows two eyes behind another deer with what looks like the silhouette of a giant toad. But many who have seen the footage don't think it is. They do believe it's an actual spaceship that was scouting the farm area this trail cam footage was captured in. Taking a critical look at the image, you can actually picture a spaceship existing in the background, with its lights behind that which was captured by the trail camera. But what do you think, though? Do deer have something strange and ominous going on with them, or is everything merely a coincidence? Let me know in the comments section. Stepping away from the paranormal a bit, we have this footage that demonstrates just how brutal the wild can be. This coyote is not alive, it's dead. Judging from the state of its body, however, it's evident that it hadn't been dead too long before this video was recorded. The coyote might have been going about its normal business when this tree might have fallen on and trapped it. It might have survived the initial impact but gotten trapped regardless. An earlier human intervention could have saved this poor animal. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that anyone made it in time. Truly brutal, isn't it? Have you ever wondered what your first bear encounter would be like? Well, I haven't, but if I ever did encounter a bear, I wouldn't want to be chill as this guy right here. He was taking a trek on Claremont Loop when he came across this big guy. He had nothing for protection, not even bear spray. But what he lacked in resources, he made up for in attitude. He somehow managed to keep his cool, walking calmly backwards and never showing his back to the bear. Although it might have been his first time, he had the knowledge to defuse a potentially harmful situation. He was even able to warn someone who was coming down the same path. In the end, 3 lives were saved that day because he handled the situation so well. Such a hero. I've seen bucks fight, but never thought I'd see the day when I'll see does fight. I mean, I've never really imagined it, but here it is right before me, and I still can't believe it. I don't know, but I find the whole thing humorous. It's as though 2 little girls were fighting and throwing their hands at each other. That's the only thing that comes to mind seeing these animals fighting one another. The third doe that runs as soon as the fight starts looks like one of those students that runs away once a fight starts to call the principal. Anyway, why do you think these does were fighting? Tell me in the comments section. Now, moving on to something does are naturally known to do. If you mention the term doe, the first thing they're going to do is register in the mind of anyone is a mama deer hanging out with her fawns and feeding them. This video captures that perfectly. See how, although her fawns are actually feeding, she keeps an eye out for predators, staring in the direction of the predator? That's exactly what mama deers are known to do. We're used to seeing pandas acting all cute and cuddly in zoos, but are they any different in the wild? Apparently not. This footage was taken by trail cameras set up in the wild, and it's nice to see it move so freely. The panda is, however, still its carefree and docile self in the wild as it is in the zoo. Gray wolves are awesome, but seeing black wolves is just breathtaking, and this trail cam managed to capture one. The owners of the trail cam had set it up in northern Minnesota, hoping to capture some wonderful interactions. Little did they know that they were gonna end up with this rare footage of a gray wolf and black wolf traveling together. The wolf population of Minnesota is primarily made up of gray wolves, so seeing a black one is surely a rare sight, which makes this footage all the more wholesome. Have you come across any black wolves? Any stories you can share on them? And because you made it this far, enjoy this cute footage of Pumbaa and his family. I'll see you in the next one.